Hey y'all, and welcome back to another new video. In today's video, I'm continuing my series about the Order of the Pheonix. If you haven't seen my previous video, that's all about the role the Order played in the First Wizarding War, and in this video I'm going to be talking about the role they play in the Second Wizarding War. But before we jump into that, make sure you are subscribed to my channel. Give this video a like if you enjoy it, and definitely leave me a comment. I really love talking to you guys in the comments, and hit the bell notification if you want to be notified when I post. Check out my link tree, that'll be linked down below to see, all the different other places you can find me. And check out my Etsy shop because right now I'm doing a 70% off sale to get us all ready for the new year. And without further ado, we can just jump right into the video. So on June 24th, 1995, Voldemort officially returns to power. And so Barty Crouch Jr., who was disguised as Auror Aleister Moody with Polyjuice Potion, had turned the Triwizard Cup into a portkey and had manipulated the events of the Triwizard Tournament to ensure that Harry would win. They weren't expecting Harry to bring, Cedric with him, but obviously that is what ended up happening, so they both get transported to a graveyard in Little Hangleton. So Peter immediately murders Cedric using Voldemort's wand, and then performs a ritual to resurrect Lord Voldemort. And after his resurrection, Voldemort calls his deputers to him. And we all know, obviously, Harry manages to escape and tell Dumbledore that Voldemort had returned. And so Dumbledore immediately informs the surviving members of the original Order of the Pheonix of this return, and sends Sirius Black in his animagus dog form, to go and tell key members such as Arabella Figg, Mundungus Fletcher, and Remus Lupin of Voldemort's return. So the Order was reconstituted and set up their headquarters at 12 Grimmauld Place in London, which was the Black family home, and the house was protected under the Fiddliest Charm with Dumbledore as the secret keeper. And members were given different assignments, such as protecting Harry or taking shifts guarding headquarters, and Harry, Ron, and Hermione, as well as some of the other youth, did assist the Order but weren't official members due to being underage. But in the First Wizarding War, the Ministry worked with the Order, but this didn't hold true for the second one, and many members of the Ministry of Magic, including the Minister himself, Cornelius Fudge, denied Voldemort's return. And Fudge thought Dumbledore was basically trying to undercut him and his authority as Minister. So remember that Dumbledore had actually been the preferred choice for the position years ago, but had turned it down. And in his early years of his term, Fudge had often gone to Dumbledore for advice, but he started to get paranoid that maybe Dumbledore would try to usurp him and use this against him, so he stopped doing that. And he basically accused Dumbledore of growing senile and denied that Voldemort had returned. But some Aurors working for the Ministry did believe Dumbledore and joined the Order, so this includes Nymphadora Tonks and Kingsley Shacklebolt. And under the Ministry's influence, the Daily Prophet also accused Dumbledore and Harry of either being crazy or of making it all up for attention. And so this led many members of the general public not to believe Harry and Dumbledore either. And so the Order existed underground as sort of an underground resistance movement, and members actually wouldn't even greet each other in public so that nobody could start to suspect that, they had allegiances to each other and wonder why. So in this first year, Voldemort and the Death Eaters conducted their work in secret, and their primary goal to start off with was to obtain a record of the entire prophecy, because remember that Snape had only heard part of it, so they didn't know the whole prophecy, and they really wanted to. And so they knew that it was kept in the Department of Mysteries because that's where all prophecies are kept, and so they wanted to figure out how to get in there. And the Order tried to guard the area as much as they could, but they had trouble doing this because the Ministry didn't believe them and weren't cooperating with them. So meanwhile, at Hogwarts, students had founded the DA, Dumbledore's Army, in response to Ministry employee Dolores Umbridge refusing to teach them Defense Against the Dark Arts. So remember that Harry was lured to the Department of Mysteries by Voldemort because, Voldemort had put in a fake thought into Harry's mind. And so Harry, Ron, Hermione, Luna, Ginny, and Neville all go to the Department of Mysteries, where they're then ambushed by 12 different Death Eaters, including, Lucius Malfoy and Bellatrix Lestrange. And Severus Snape learned what was happening due to, getting the Death Eater call, and so he informs the Order. And obviously, Snape couldn't go and try to protect the kids himself because that would obviously give away that he was a double agent. So the best he could do was alert the Order. But Order members Sirius, Remus, Nymphadora, Aleister, and Kingsley raced to the Ministry. And the Order did manage to save all 6 students, but the prophecy did end up getting destroyed in the battle, and Sirius Black did end up dying, being, killed by Bellatrix, pushed through the archway, past the veil. And all Order members besides Lupin and Dumbledore were injured, and every single student except Harry was injured. And I just hate that they left that out of the movie, because in my opinion it just like really showed kind of how alone Harry was going to have to be in the end. Like, it was kind of a glimpse into that. But so I think leaving it out of the movie was not the right choice, but whatever, they did. So when Harry's like kind of like incapacitated on the floor, Dumbledore and Voldemort duel in order to save Harry. And during this duel, several members of the Ministry, including Fudge, enter the Ministry atrium because they, you know, probably like, I'm sure there's like some security system that alerted them that there was like intruders. And they see Voldemort with their own eyes. And Voldemort does quickly disapparate with Bellatrix, but at this point Fudge has no choice but to admit that Voldemort has returned. And so because of his kind of like failure, he was quickly replaced with Rufus Scrimgeour, I don't know, as minister. And this battle at the Department of Mysteries did mark the official start of the Second Wizarding War. And so Rufus was much more proactive than Fudge, but he was still suspicious of Dumbledore and the Order. And he actually tried to get Harry to align himself with the Ministry as a way to boost public morale, but Harry was kind of disgusted by this, saw it as more of like a power move, denied to do this, and declared his loyalty to Dumbledore and the Order. And basically, over the course of the next school year, Dumbledore taught Harry about Voldemort's past, his childhood, the existence of Horcruxes, all of that. And all this year, the Order was keeping guard at Hogwarts. And so, at the Battle of the Ministry, Lucius Malfoy was actually arrested and put in Azkaban. And so he, over the summer between, you know, their 5th and 6th year, Lucius forces Draco to become a Death Eater in his place. And so, of course, at the end of their 6th year, Draco lets the Death Eaters in through the Vanishing Cabinet, and this leads to the Battle of the Astronomy Tower. And so Malfoy was supposed to kill Dumbledore, but he lowers his wand, if you guys remember, because obviously he doesn't want to, he's just a kid. And Snape knew Voldemort would kill Malfoy if Dumbledore didn't end up dead, so he steps in and kills him. And this was actually a plan Snape and Dumbledore had come up with ahead of time, basically to protect both Draco's life, but also, you know, his heart, I guess, or his soul. But nobody knew about this plan. So the Order and Harry thought that Snape had just betrayed them because they didn't know that it was Dumbledore's wish for Snape to kill him instead of Draco. So the Order obviously all attends Dumbledore's funeral, and Aleister Moody becomes their new leader. And the Order needs to move Harry at the beginning of the 7th book because his blood protection from Lily is ending on his 17th birthday. And so he can no longer live at his relative's house because that's just like wide in the open. But they couldn't use any simple modes of transportation like Floo powder or apparition because these modes are monitored by the Ministry, which is obviously overrun by Death Eaters. So they have to come up with something else. So 2 Order members, Daedalus Diggle and Hestia Jones, take the Dursleys into hiding so they wouldn't be targeted. Another scene I wish they hadn't cut from the movies is that kind of like last conversation. And the Order's plan was to have 7 decoys disguised as Harry with Polyjuice Potion and Harry fly out with 7 Order members protecting them. But they were ambushed by over 30 Death Eaters and Voldemort himself while flying to the Burrow because they switched the headquarters from Grimmauld Place to the Burrow because Snape knew about Grimmauld Place, and remember, they think Snape is a traitor. And unfortunately, Moody and Hedwig were killed in this like battle on the way to the Burrow. And on August 1st, 1997, Death Eaters seize complete control of the Ministry. They kill Scrimgeour. Okay, and Death Eater Corbin Yaxley puts a Ministry employee, Pius Thicknesse, under the Imperious Curse, and they basically use him as Voldemort's puppet Minister of Magic. And so, as this is all happening, this like coup, Kingsley sends, so remember Kingsley is an Auror working at the Ministry, sends a Patronus message to the Burrow to let them know of the coup. And at the same time that the coup is happening, Bill and Fleur's wedding reception is taking place at the Burrow. And so somehow the wedding is infiltrated by Death Eaters looking for Harry. And luckily no Order members were killed in this sort of ambush, and Harry, Ron, and Hermione vanished from the scene. And they then started their journey to hunt for Horcruxes. And the rest of the Order actually didn't know about this mission, so they didn't know what they were doing or where they were going or anything. And I think they didn't tell them this in order to protect them. And with the Ministry now controlled by Voldemort, the Order members were basically fugitives and forced to go completely underground. And the Weasley family was kept under heavy surveillance since they were known to associate with Harry. And also the taboo curse was put on Voldemort's name, which allowed the location of the speaker to be identified. And so Kingsley almost got captured by saying the name, but was able to fight the Death Eaters off. And in spring of 1998, it was discovered that Ron was traveling with Harry, and so the Weasleys had to go into complete hiding so that they wouldn't be, killed or tortured. So they had to leave the burrow and move in with a relative and hiding under the Fidelius charm. But Bill and Fleur did decide to remain at Shell Cottage, which obviously ends up being a good thing. So Arthur and Bill quit their jobs, Ginny's pulled from school, Fred and George have to abandon the joke shop, at least all of this for the time being. And the Order continues to lead the Existence movement underground. One aspect of their resistance movement was Potter Watch, which was a radio show that broadcasted the truth, since other forms of media like the Daily Prophet were being controlled by the corrupted Ministry of Magic. And the Order encouraged society to follow their lead by protecting innocent muggles from Death Eaters, muggle-borns from the Ministry, and to stay strong and united. And on May 1st, 1998, the Order gets a call to arms from Neville Longbottom, who is the head of the Dumbledore army back at Hogwarts. And he had used the DA coin system to call former DA members that weren't currently at Hogwarts, so students that had graduated or were pulled or whatever. And Hogwarts was evacuated, but of-age students were given the opportunity to stay and fight. And I was asked if any Slytherins stayed and fight, and the canon answer, whether you agree with JKR's writing of Slytherins or not, because I don't really necessarily agree with it, but the canon answer is that all of the of-age Slytherins did not want to stay and fight. The only ones that stayed were Draco, Crabbe, and Goyle, and obviously that's kind of complicated if they were really which side they were really on. Well, Crabbe and Goyle were not on Hogwarts' side, but Draco is obviously a little less clear. So the Order formulates the battle plan. So some Hogwarts professors lead fighters up to the 3 highest towers, while Kingsley, Remus, and Arthur lead other fighters to protect the school grounds. Fred and George organize defenses against entryways and passages into the school, which I think is kind of funny because obviously they're experts on the passages. And McGonagall orders Neville, Seamus, and Ginny to destroy the bridge, which they do. And the battle begins at midnight on May 2nd, and it was a very large and, fierce conflict. And Voldemort finds out that Harry is inside the castle trying to destroy his Horcruxes. So he orders all people and creatures who have ever been loyal to him to attack the school, and obviously they do. And the battle is fought all over the school and all over the grounds, and a bunch of people die, including 50 people on, the good side. So some key ones is Remus is killed by Death Eater Antonin Dolohov, Tonks is killed by Bellatrix Lestrange, and Augustus Rookwood causes an explosion that kills Fred. And using Nagini, Voldemort kills Snape, thinking that this would give him the Elder Wand, because he thought since Snape had killed Dumbledore, that Snape was the proper owner of the Elder Wand, when actually the proper owner of the Elder Wand is really just who disarms the previous owner, which made Draco Malfoy, at least for a time, the owner, but then when Draco basically just handed all the wands to Harry, made Harry the owner. But Voldemort doesn't know any of this, and it actually makes me really angry because was his plan to kill Draco? Because obviously his original plan was to have Draco kill Dumbledore, so probably would have just killed Draco too. He didn't care about any of these people, And so Voldemort withdraws his forces and gives Harry that final ultimatum: either face him or he will destroy Hogwarts and kill everyone in it. And Harry had learned from Snape's final memories that he basically had to die in order for Voldemort to be defeated, and also he learned that Dumbledore had known this all along, but so he went willingly. He didn't put up any fights, and he allowed himself to be hit with the killing curse. And then obviously Harry goes to heaven or limbo or whatever that is supposed to be, the crossword into the next life or whatever. But he does survive this, and only the Horcrux in him is killed, and that's what that little disgusting thing is the Horcrux, the disgusting piece of Voldemort's soul. And he then returns to Earth and defeats Voldemort once and for all. And many Death Eaters were captured, killed, or fled. And the Second Wizarding War ends, guys. And so thus the Order is disbanded since their mission was complete. And remaining orders were viewed as war heroes, and kind of just what some of them did afterwards. Harry and Ron go on to be Aurors in order to track down all the remaining followers of Voldemort. Kingsley went on to become Minister of Magic, and Dolores Umbridge was sentenced to life in Azkaban for her crimes against humanity. And Snatchers, though not officially Death Eaters, did commit many horrible acts during the war, such as murdering Muggleborns basically just for fun, including Ted Tonks. So they were likely put in Azkaban as well, even though they weren't official Death Eaters. And then Albert Runcorn may have also been sent to Azkaban alongside Umbridge because he helped send many Muggleborns to prison by basically being the person that was like going through every single person's family tree to identify who may have been a Muggleborn. And Dementors were removed from Azkaban, and they came up with like a more humane way to contain prisoners. And Hermione worked in the Department of Regulation and Control of Magical Creatures to help better the treatment of house elves, and eventually works her way up all the way to becoming Minister of Magic. And by 2007, we know that Harry was promoted to head Auror, but he continued to move up over the next several years, and by 2020, he was head of the Department of Magical Law Enforcement. And that is basically the Second Wizarding War. And in my next video, I'm actually going to talk about a lesser known event in the Wizarding world called the Calamity that the Order also played a role in. So definitely check back in a few days for that. And until next time, bye.